recently, vendors have been producing what they call healthy versions of these foods, such as trans, fat-free, whole grain, super donuts. But even though these products technically fit the guidelines, we've actually made an additional note in our guidelines that these are not acceptable either. Even though these items are better than the real thing, this really sends the wrong message to kids that these items are healthy, and that it's also impossible for them to distinguish now. They walk into a 7-Eleven, see a honey bun, think, oh, it's served at school, it must be the whole grain nutritious kind. It's just harder for kids to distinguish between that. So I won't go into the rationale behind each of our guidelines, but I'll just give you a couple examples of how and why we formulated these. First of all, we don't allow high sugar cereals to be served because the added sugars lead to severe fluctuations in blood sugar. So this translates to when a student has, say, a trick cereal, they'll experience an immediate surge in energy, followed by lethargy, poor concentration, and hunger. So that makes focusing on school nearly impossible for any of us, let alone the kids. So low sugar cereals, more like Cheerios, Kix, and then high fiber cereals such as Raisin Bran create a smaller spike in blood sugar, so you avoid these dramatic fluctuations in energy. Another one of our requirements emphasizes fiber by mandating fresh fruit be served instead of juice, and that whole grains be used whenever possible. So fiber aids in digestion, and it's shown to decrease the risk of cancer and heart disease. It also contributes bulk to the diet and creates a feeling of fullness, so this may contribute to a healthy weight. And even though people always say, oh, 100% fruit juice, it's great, it is great, it has a lot of vitamins and minerals, but it contains very little fiber and a lot more calories in whole food because of the sugar content in the juice. So if you compare a little cup of apple juice, has more calories than a whole apple, and of course an apple is going to fill you up more. So along these same lines, bread products that are made from refined white flour have been stripped of fiber during their processing. And even nowadays, most products are enriched, which means the vitamins get put back in after that stripping is done, but they still don't get the fiber back and some other important vitamins, just like whole grain products already have. We've launched the Better Breakfast Initiative in 5 communities across the state, and it's been really successful so far. It's really exciting to see the pre- and post-reports on the nutrition because it shows just all the improvements by making these menu changes across all of the students at breakfast, because basically we switch out the menu. We don't let them choose between a donut and this, or low sugar, high sugar cereals. We just switch out the whole menu. Now, of course, we didn't just switch the menu. I hope the students didn't notice and go along their merry way. There was a lot of pre-launch work that was done in all these communities. First of all, of course, we had to enlist the support of the principal, the food service director, cafeteria staff, nurses, teachers, to help us promote, because it's really important. We don't want the adults saying, oh, we don't like this food either. They've got to really be on board and be supportive to the kids. They should actually be eating it themselves. We even got some teachers to integrate it into their lesson plans for math, start using fruit and things like that. We also tried to educate students and parents through flyers and promotional materials, just to show them why we were changing the menu and how important good nutrition is. Many schools used ideas from our Marketing Healthy Food Kit, which we produced last year. And for instance, this is one of the promotional materials. So these are nutrition fact forms you can fill out, put it back next to an unhealthy item next to a healthy item. And sometimes people are really surprised at the big differences between the two. We also hosted a kickoff breakfast in each community featuring new items and invited parents to come in and sample the foods with their kids. We also invited local politicians who love to attend these types of events and sent out press releases, and we actually got press at every school that we did these for. So there was a lot of positive publicity to the school. The schools then continued to promote the Better Breakfast Initiative by talking about it at PTO meetings, trying to reach parents that way, having taste tests, you can go to the next one, having student surveys, so they could rate the different items and then give examples of, hey, this is a healthy item I'd like to see on the menu. However, it wasn't all smooth sailing. Participation in a couple of the communities slightly decreased at the very beginning of the program because, as you can imagine, kids don't see the value of healthy food right away. They just want their Cocoa Puffs and their chocolate milk. But research shows that many kids need about 10 to 20 tries before they get used to having a food. So all the schools were committed, they knew this, stuck with the menu until the kids grew to accept it, and then their participation levels went back up. Now, cost is usually a concern when healthy foods are involved, but all of the districts manage to balance their food costs within their overall budgets. Whether or not the menu change resulted in cost issues depended on what they were serving before. For instance, 1% milk and switching to low-sugar cereals, there's no financial impact. However, if you were serving all fruit juice and switched to whole fruit, that was definitely going to affect your bottom line. But then these schools just relied on increased breakfast participation through promotion so they could get more money from the USDA. But we're hoping over time, if enough schools get on board and are requesting these healthy products, supply and demand, the cost will go down. So after we tested and worked all the kinks out of the Better Breakfast Initiative the past few years, we created a toolkit that explains the program, gives a list of products that are approved so that a school can just order these products right from their vendor. Some example menus, so just to give schools an example of what can work. And you can see it's a whole month of different menus, so it's not just the same thing every day. The next one, and we also included some recipes for those schools that do their own cooking, as well as promotional materials that they could post around the schools and send home. We sent a kit to every school district in Massachusetts, and we'll be following up in November to see how many of them have implemented it beyond our original 5 communities. We've also started recently moving into the area of school lunch with guidelines for the summer food service program and the school lunch. We tested some of the guidelines this summer, and we're currently tweaking them with Harvard. But the additions beyond our breakfast guidelines include no fried food, no more than 770 milligrams of sodium per lunch, serving only lean protein and low-fat cheeses, cream-based sauce, and soups, and limiting treat products such as cookies, cakes, pies to 1 time a week or less. And we're starting to test these guidelines in a couple schools in Boston this year, and we've even teamed up with the Boston Public Health Commission, and they hired a professional chef to actually create more healthier but also more appetizing school meals for the kids. So once we test out these guidelines in a few other communities, we'll also create a toolkit for lunch. So improving the nutritional value of school food may seem like a losing battle when you look at the access kids have to all sorts of junk food alternatives, as well as the enormous marketing budgets of these food companies I talked about before. But as demonstrated by these food companies, marketing has the power to influence kids' wants and needs. So by building a healthy school environment, making healthy foods more appealing through effective marketing strategies, educating parents and students, I think we can convince kids that nutritious food tastes good and is good for them. So for any more information, I'll take a couple questions now. In the back table, we have a lot of information about school breakfast, the summer food service program, and the Better Breakfast Initiative. And then our website is mealsforkids.org. If you have further questions or want to see a little bit more detail.